Hello guys, Fish767 here. So today we have a commander deck that's not exactly normal. It is more than 100 cards. So let me explain why that is. So our commander is Mayael the Anima. She's a 3-drop 2/3 legendary elf shaman. She says pay 3 red, white, and green, tap it, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature card with power 5 or greater from among them onto the battlefield and put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So, for the sake of being fun and creating a fun play situation for the entire table, we've made this deck more than 100 cards. And so when we go to shuffle up the deck, we're going to take 26 cards from this pile, which is a bunch of high-power creatures. We're going to shuffle them into our main deck, and then we're going to play. And that is going to increase randomness, obviously. But the main idea is that we don't even know what's in our deck at this point. And so it makes a mysterious element to the game. And that grabs people's attention and pulls them in, makes them focus on the game, and improves the overall fun. Because then people will be like, well, I wonder what you're going to pull, and they'll be engaged. And that's what we want. So I'm going to start with our lands first. They're not, they're in the order of the deck list, so there's a deck list in the description if you want to check it out. The sideboard is the creatures, and if it doesn't end up showing, I'll have to copy and paste it just into the YouTube description. But the sideboard is our creatures over here, and then the main deck's this deck. So we'll start off with the lands, I guess, since I have them in that order. So Sunhome, Fortress of the Legion. It taps for colorless, pay 2 red-white, tap it, target creature gains double strike. Slayer Stronghold, it taps for colorless, pay red and white, tap it, target creature gets +2/+0, gains vigilance and haste. Skarg the Rage Pits, taps for colorless, tap red and green, and a creature gets +1/+1 and gains trample until the end of turn. We run 6 plains, 6 mountains, and 13 forests, which I'll grab in a minute. So we have Myriad Landscape. It enters the battlefield tapped. It taps for colorless. Pay 2, tap it, sack it, search for 2 basic land cards that share a land type, put them onto the battlefield. Mosswort Bridge. It has Hideaway. When it enters the battlefield, you're going to look at the top 4 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, then put the rest on the bottom of your library. It taps for green. Oh, and it enters tapped, by the way. So, but it taps for green, and you can pay green and tap it and play the exile card without paying its mana cost. If creatures you control have total power 10 or greater, which we have a bunch of high-power creatures, so that's going to happen. We have Kessick Wolf Run. It's a land that taps for colorless, or we can pay X red and green, tap it, target creature gets +X/+0 and gains trample until the end of the turn. Oh boy, I accidentally hit my stand. Sorry guys. Let me see if I can zoom in here. Okay. So we have Jungle Shrine. It enters the battlefield tapped. It taps for any of our colors. Then we have those forests, and there are 13 forests. And then we have Exotic Orchard. It taps for any color that a land our opponents control could produce. So normally that's all of our colors. Then we have Contested Cliffs. It taps for colorless, or you can pay red, green, tap it. Choose target beast you control and target creature an opponent controls. Each creature deals damage equal to its power to the other. This card's not the best in this deck, now that I'm reading it and realizing that it says beast. I didn't know that it said beast before. But we do run a couple beasts, so it's not useless. But if you're going to take it out, put in a mountain, I guess. And then we have Command Tower, taps for any of our colors, and Bonder's Enclave, it taps for colors, or we can pay 3 and tap it, draw a card, activate this ability only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, which is really good because we're not in draw colors. And then we have Blighted Woodland, it taps for colorless, pay 3, a green, tap it, sack it, search for 2 basics, put them on the battlefield tapped. Okay, here we go. So into the main deck, we've got Sandworm Convergence. Let me zoom in a little bit more here. And maybe focus too. Can we do that? Okay. So Sandworm Convergence, it's an 8-drop enchantment. Creatures with flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control at the beginning of your end step. Put a green 5 creature token onto the battlefield. Zendikar Resurgent, it makes our lands tap for double, kind of. They tap for an additional mana, and then whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card, 7-drop enchantment. Fiery Emancipation, this card's amazing in this deck, especially if you get it down with Hydra Omnivore in play. I'll read Hydra Omnivore later, but it's basically you swing at one person. If it gets through, you deal them 24 damage, and then you deal 62 to the rest of the table. No, 72. Yeah, it would be 72 to the rest of the table. Not you included, but anyway, it's a 6-drop enchantment. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. It's insane. Where Ancient Treads, a 5-drop enchantment. Whenever a creature with power 5 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you may have it deal 5 damage to target creature or player, which most of our creatures will have power 5 or greater. Berserker's Onslaught, 5-drop enchantment, attacking creatures you control with double strike. Into the Wilds, it's a 4-drop enchantment at the beginning of your upkeep. Look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it on the battlefield. Rites of Flourishing, 3-drop enchantment at the beginning of each player's draw step. The player draws an additional card. At least I think that's what that's supposed to say. And each player may play an additional land on each of his or her turns. It's an amazing card. It's pretty cheap. It's only like $3, so pick it up if you can before it gets too expensive. Myth Unbound, 3-drop enchantment. Your commander costs 1 less to cast for each time it's been cast from the command zone. This game, whenever your commander is put into the command zone from anywhere, draw a card. So Mayael's not a huge target, but she comes in with a target on her back because she lets you look at the top 5, pick the best creature, put it into play. You're not free casting it technically. You might be reducing the cost, but you could also be increasing it because we run 4-drop 5-power creatures. So, like, it's just a nice card to have. Not to mention if she gets blown up, because we do run some board wipes that would kill her if she gets hit. Then we can draw a card and she costs less. So it's pretty good. We have Garruk's Uprising, 3-drop enchantment, and when it enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Creatures you control have trample. Whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This is just an amazing piece of card draw right there. Fires of Yavimaya, 3-drop enchantment. Creatures you control have haste, sacrifice it, and target creature gets +2/+2 until the end of the turn. Beastmaster Ascension, 3-drop enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, you may put a quest counter on Beastmaster Ascension. As long as it has 7 or more quest counters on it, creatures you control get +5/+5. Nahiri's Machinations, 2-drop enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains indestructible until the end of the turn. You can pay 1 in a red and have Nahiri's Machinations deal 1 damage to target blocking creature, which is pretty good. Then we have Assault Suit, a 4-drop equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, has haste, can't attack you or a planeswalker you control, and can't be sacrificed. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may have that player gain control of the equipped creature until the end of turn. If you do, untap it. So this is great. We'll put it on something like, a Greater Gargadon that's a 9/7, and then it becomes an 11/9, and everybody has to swing it every turn, and it just goes around the table. It's a beautiful card. Then we have Lightning Greaves, 2-drop equipped creature has haste and Shroud equipped 0. Pretty good stuff. If you want, you could switch to Swiftfoot Boots, which works better with our lands, but we can also move around the Lightning Greaves pretty easily, so it shouldn't be an issue, and Swiftfoot Boots does cost 1 to equip. And you could run both, but that's up to you. Then we have Explorer's Scope. It's a 1-drop equipment. Whenever a equipped creature attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped. Sort of the Animus is much better, but I couldn't afford it, so we went with this budget version. Then we have Sky Shroud Claim, 4-drop. Search your library for up to 2 forest cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Primeval Light, destroy all enchantments target player controls for 4 mana, which is really good since Shrines came out, and if you face a Shrine deck, that card is a bomb. It's beautiful. There are other ones. There's, I think, Back to Nature. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it's Back to Nature. It's a 2-drop instant, destroy all enchantments. And then there's another one that we run, and we'll get to that in a minute. Circuitous Route, 4-drop, search your library for 2 basic lands and or gates, put them on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Search for Tomorrow, 3-drop sorcery. It has to spend 2 for 1. Search your library for basic land card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. It comes in untapped, which is pretty nice. We run Kodama's Reach and Cultivate. They do the same thing. Search your library for 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, put 1 on the battlefield, tapped, and the other into your hand, then shuffle your library. We have Savage Twister, X red greens. Sorcery, it deals X damage to each creature, which is nice because most of ours have high toughness, but it does kill Mayael, so be careful. Return to Nature, 2-drop, choose 1 instant, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or exile exile target card from a graveyard. So that hits everything. It's real nice. We have Rampant Growth, 2-drop, go grab a land, put it into play tapped. Mizium Mortar, 2-drop sorcery, deals 4 damage to target creature you don't control, or you can overload it for 6. And that means it'll hit every creature that you don't control for 4 damage, which is amazing. Okay, so this is the card I was talking about. We have Leave No Trace, 2-drop instant radiance, destroy target enchantment and each other enchantment that shares a color with it. So if we hit their big shrine, their 5-color shrine, it blows up everything. So this is beautiful. It doesn't blow up colorless enchantments, though. So you do have to be careful if they have like an Eldrazi conscription out or something like that. It won't blow that up. But I think that that's about the only colorless enchantment. Then we have Gaia's Blessing, 2-drop sorcery. Target player shuffles up to 3 target cards from their graveyard into their library, draw a card. When it is put into your graveyard from your library, shuffle your graveyard into your library. It's mostly there for anti-mill. Then we have Force Seek. It goes and grabs a plains, island, swamp, or mountain, and it puts it into play tapped. Then we have Explore. It's a 2-drop sorcery. You may play an additional land, draw a card. Edge of Autumn. If you control 4 or fewer lands, search your library for basic land card, put into play tap, then shuffle your library as cycling, sacrifice a land. Nature's Claim. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Its controller gains 4 life. Okay, we have a couple of planeswalkers. They're optional mostly, but they're really good at what they do. Quatley Radiant Champion. It's a 4 mana, 3 loyalty. +1, put a loyalty counter on it for each creature you control. -1, target creature gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control, and -8, you get an emblem with whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. That emblem is insane. We're going to be trying to get as many of those as possible. Then we have Garruk Unleashed, 4-drop, 4 loyalty, Garruk. I got the stamped one. I'm really happy about that. I didn't get to use it, though, when I was playing. I ended up playing Black-Red in the pre-release, but it was still fun. So it has +1, up to 1 target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample. We have it mostly for the trample, but then you can -2 to create a 3/3 green beast. And then if an opponent controls more creatures than you, you may put a loyalty counter on Garruk. So if you get Garruk down on turn 3 or 4, they will most likely have more creatures than us since we don't run that many low drop creatures. So that becomes a -1, make a 3/3, which is pretty nice. And then we have -7. You get an emblem with at the beginning of your end step. You may search your library for a creature card put on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. The emblem's insane. And we have Domri, Anarch of Bolas. This card functions so well in this deck because it's a 3-drop, 3 loyalty. It says creatures control get +1/+0 as a passive, which we really like because we got a lot of big trampley boys. Then it has +1, add red or green, so it ramps us by 1, and then creatures you cast this turn can't be countered, which is amazing. We need that. And then -2, target creature you control fights target creature you don't control, and that becomes removal, and we love that too. Then we have Drum Hunter, 4-drop, 2/2. So we only run 2 creatures mainboarded that aren't going to be randomly selected. This is one of them. At the end of your turn, if you control a creature with power 5 or greater, you may draw a card. That'll happen most of the time. And then it taps for a colorless. And then we have Sakura Tribe Elder, 2-drop, sack it, go grab a land. It's a 1/1. It's basically rampant growth. Okay, so then you can run any more than 5 power creatures that you want. We have 26 slots open, so any 26 will fit into the deck. But I have 52 here, so twice as many as we need. I actually couldn't find that many more. And I'll just go over these just to give you an idea, but you don't have to watch this part. But these are the ones that I picked. Some of them are bad, some of them are good. And I wanted to have that selection of having the bad ones and the good ones to kind of make it even more fun, to add to that even more. So we have Greater Gargadon. It's a 10-drop, 9/7, suspend 10 for 1 red. Second artifact creature or land, remove a time counter from Greater Gargadon. Activate this ability only if it is suspended. So we're going to try and cast that off of Mayael for basically 6. And then we'll have a 6-drop, 9/7, which is beautiful. Myojin of Lifeswab. So this one's really weird. I didn't read it when I bought it. I should have read it a little bit better. So it's a 9-drop, 8/8 legendary spirit. When it comes into play with a divinity counter, if you played it from your hand. So you have to play it from your hand to get the divinity counter. But we could end up with it in our hand a lot of times, and we can probably ramp into it. I don't think that we'd have too much of an issue there. But it has indestructible as long as it has a divinity counter on it. I'm sorry, you can't really see it because of the glare. I'm trying to fix that. And not to mention my phone's not. Okay, let's see. I think that that's a little bit better. And then it says remove a divinity counter from it, put any number of creature cards from your hand into play. So that last bit is mostly why it's in the deck. So then we have Verdant Force, 7-drop, 7/7 at the beginning of each upkeep, make a Saproling, which is amazing. Polyraptor, Enrage, whenever it's dealt damage, create a token that's a copy of it. It's an 8-drop, 5/5, so that card is amazing. Eldrazi Devastator, an 8-drop, 8/9 with Trample. There are a lot of other Eldrazi's I have, but right now they're in my Eldrazi deck, so I couldn't take them out to put them in here. But all the Eldrazi would be amazing. Ulamog, Kozilek, and Rockwool. They're all great to put in here, but I just don't have them right now. So, Bordigan Hellkite, it's an 8-drop 5/5 flash flying. When it enters the battlefield, it does 5 damage to targets you choose among any number of target creatures and or players. So that card is beautiful. I love it. Even if you get it in your hand, it's a great card to have since it's instant speed removal technically. And it can become a blocker, so it's really nice to have as combat shenanigans. Not to mention you can do Mayael anytime. So if you were to do Mayael in the middle of combat and pull off the Hellkite, it's just a great combo. So Archetype of Endurance, an 8-drop 6/5 creatures you control have hexproof. Creatures your opponents control lose hexproof and can't have or gain hexproof, so it's a nice bit of protection. A Chroma Angel of Wrath. So this one's probably going to go into its own commander deck, I'm thinking, because it's just such a good card. I love it. So it's an 8-drop legendary angel. Flying. It has flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, protection for black, and from red. So this thing is a keyword soup, and I love it. And it's also a 6/6, which makes it pretty big. And it's perfect for countering Atraxa because it has pro black, first strike, and vigilance. And flying, not to mention. So if they swing in with Atraxa, you have her beat on every single stage of this thing. And it has haste right when it comes down, so it's hard to really deal with. Because you're definitely going to be getting at least one hit in, for sure. So this thing's just beautiful. I just love it. There's a lot of things that I want to do with this in its own commander deck, so we're going to probably go there later. And then we have one of the bad ones. So this one's a 7-drop 6/6 with Riot and Trample. That's a Wrecking Beast. Then we have Vernon's Avatar. Whenever it or another creature enters the battlefield under control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. It's a 7-drop 5/5. We have a lot of high toughness creatures, so it's pretty nice. Venom Spout Brachus. I love this card. It's one of those weird ones. It's from an older set, but it's a 7-drop 5/5 beast. Pay 1 and a green, tap it. It deals 5 damage to target attacking or blocking creature with flying. And that is a beautiful ability if I've ever seen one, because we can't really deal with flyers that much. We don't run that many, but this is a wonderful card, and it has Morph for 5. Tyrant's Familiar, 7-drop 5/5 flying haste lieutenant. As long as it's your turn, it gets +2/+2 and has whenever it attacks, it deals 7 damage to target creature defending player controls, which is really OP. Then we have Thorn Elemental, 7-drop 7/7. You may have it deal combat damage to defending players though it weren't blocked. I got a nice old foily right there. I don't think it's worth much, but it's still nice to look at. Spearbreaker Behemoth, we love this card. This is one of our best cards in the deck. If it ends up in the deck. It's a 7-drop 5/5. It's indestructible. You can pay 1 to make target creature with power 5 or greater indestructible this turn. That's just beautiful for our deck since most of our creatures have power 5 or greater. And then we have Silverclad Frostodons, 7-drop 8/5. Enrage whenever it's dealt damage, each opponent sacrifices a permanent. Palaka Worm, this is a bad one. But 7-drop 7/7 trample. When it enters the battlefield, gain 7 life. When it dies, draw a card. Nyx Bloom Ancient. Okay, I love this card. I almost mainboarded it completely. But then I was like, that would be kind of OP to have it mainboarded, and I wanted to have the randomness. But it's a 7-drop 5/5 trample. If you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. And that one is actually 3 times. But if you get this one down and Zendikar Resurgent, you'll only be tapping for 4 because Zendikar Resurgent goes after the replacement effects. So, yeah, this one's a replacement effect. Zendikar Resurgent's not. Mossbridge Troll, it's a 7-drop 5/5. If it would be destroyed, regenerate it. So you basically can't destroy the thing. You can exile it, though, and you can put it directly from the field into the graveyard if it doesn't destroy it, or if it says that it can't be regenerated, something like that. But then you can tap any number of untapped creatures you control other than Mossbridge Troll with power 10 or greater, and it gets +20/+20 until the end of turn. And that's not going to be hard to do. Moldgraph Monstrosity, 7-drop 8/8 trample. When it dies, exile it, then return 2 creature cards at random from your graveyard to the battlefield. I think that one's self-explanatory. Greater Sandworm, 7-drop 7/7 can't be blocked with creatures by creatures with power 2 or less, and it has cycling for 2. Then we have Gladeheart Cavalry, 7-drop 6/6. When an ETB supports 6, so you're going to put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 6 other target creatures. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, you gain 2 life, which is nice. It's not the best, though. But Engulfing Slagworm's a really fun card. I wish I'd known about it earlier, because I would have done so many stupid things with it. So it's a 7-drop 7/7, but when it blocks, it becomes blocked by a creature. Destroy that creature. You gain life equal to that creature's toughness. And this just happens before it even deals damage. Before you even go to well, no, you're already in combat, but it's before you deal damage. So you just swing it in, they block with something, and it's already dead no matter what. And it also gains you life, so it's pretty nice. If we can give that one trample, it's 7 damage getting through every turn guaranteed. It's beautiful. Then we have Warden of the Woods, 6-drop, 5/7 Vigilance. Whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you may draw 2 cards, which is pretty fun. Vigor is another one of our bombs. So it's a 6-drop, 6/6 trample. If damage would be dealt to another creature you control, prevent that damage, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature for each 1 damage prevented this way. And when Vigor is put into a graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into its owner's library. So it's a pretty amazing card. Thopter Assembly, 6-drop, 5/5 flyer. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control no Thopters other than Thopter Assembly, return it to its owner's hand and create 5 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying. Sun Titan, 6-drop, 6/6 Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may return target permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from a graveyard to the battlefield. This is mostly going to hit our enchantments and Sakura Tribeholder. And our lands, I guess. But that's about it. So this is probably going to end up in a chroma when I build it. Still Hellkite, 6-drop, 5/5 flyer. Pay 2, it gets +1/+0 until the end of turn. Pay X, destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X, whose controller was dealt combat damage by Still Hellkite this turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. It's a pretty good card, and it's a dragon too, for everything that it does. Soul of the Harvest, 6-drop, 6/6 trample. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. That's nice because we don't have to cast it, so it works really well with Mayael. Then we have Soul of New Phyrexia, 6-drop, 6/6 trample. Pay 5 permanents you control, gain indestructible until the end of turn. Pay 5 exile Soul of New Phyrexia from your graveyard. Permanents you control, gain indestructible until the end of turn, which we really like. Sylvanas Rogue Elemental, it's a 6-drop, 8/5 trample. Pay a green and regenerate it. Then we have Ruik Thar, the Unbowed. This one will also probably end up in its own commander deck. It's a 6-drop, 6/6 legendary Orc Warrior, or Ogre Warrior, my bad. It's an Ogre. It has Vigilance and Reach. It attacks each turn if able. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Ruik Thar deals 6 damage to that player. And our deck has a lot of enchantments in it, so maybe it's not the best thing to stick in our deck. But we run 28 creatures, so I mean, not including Mayael. Or we will be once we shuffle everything in there. So this card's beautiful. I love it. Then we have Phyrexian Juggernaut, 6-drop, 5/5 infected, attacks each turn if able. That one can kill somebody in 2 hits. Palladium Moor, the Ruiner, 6-drop, 6/6 flying Vigilance trample. It has hexproof if it hasn't dealt damage yet, which is a really good card for everything. Paleoth is 6-drop, 5/5. Whenever another creature with power 5 or greater comes into play under your control, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So this one's really good for bringing stuff back. It's like our graveyard recursion card. If we can hit that one down, we're probably set for the game, as long as it doesn't die. Then we have Nemesis of Mortals, a 6-drop, 5/5. It costs 1 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard, and it has Pay 9, Monstrosity 5. This ability costs 1 less for each creature card in your graveyard. And when you make it monstrous, you'll put 5 +1/+1 counters on it, and then it'll be monstrous, so you can't do it again. Lava Serpent, it's a 6-drop, 5/5 haste cycling for 2. Hydra Omnivore, a 6-drop, 8/8. Whenever it deals combat damage to your opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent, which is perfect with the whatever it is that deals triple damage. So you'll swing in, you'll deal 24 to one person if it gets through, and then you'll deal triple that to all the other players. Not yourself though, but that can one-shot a table. Honey Mammoth, 6-drop, 6/6, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. Hellkite Charger, 6-drop, 5/5 flying haste. Whenever it attacks, you may pay 5 and 2 red. If you do, untap all attacking creatures, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Gargo's Vicious Watcher. I love this card because it gives you so much of a good protection against everything. It's a 6-drop, 8/7 Vigilance. Hydra spells you cast cost 4 less to cast. I don't think that we run any more of those, but that might be nice if you put like Hero's Bane in here or something. And whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, Gargo's Vicious Watcher fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Then we have a Listed Worm. It's a 6-drop, 5/5 with Cascade. So that can get us mostly enchantments. Dragonlayer Spider, it's a 6-drop, 5/6 reach. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you put a 1/1 green insect creature token on the battlefield. And those can be really good for blocking. So I love that card. Assembled Alphas is a 6-drop, 5/5. Whenever it blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, it deals 3 damage to that creature and 3 damage to that creature's controller. So you might leave that one up for defense if you need to, but it's just a wonderful card because you're hitting for 3 no matter what, whether they block it or not. And then if it survives, you're going to hit for 3 guaranteed next turn too. And then we have Aggressive Mammoth. It's a 6-drop, 8/8 trample. Other creatures you control have trample. We really want to give trample to everything just to hit through because we got these big bodies, but they can easily be chump blocked. So we have a 5-drop, 5/3 haste Myriad. It's called War Chief Giant. But what Myriad does is when it attacks for each opponent other than the defending player, you may put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of this creature, tapped in attacking that player, or a planeswalker he or she controls, and then you exile the tokens at the end of combat. So basically, he attacks everybody, and he's a 5/3, so that makes him pretty good. We have Quartzwood Crasher, a 5-drop 6/6 trample. Whenever one or more creatures you control with trample deal combat damage to a player, you create an XX green dinosaur beast creature token with trample, where X is the amount of damage those creatures dealt to that player. So if you swing tramplers at all the different players, you'll end up with 3. If you have 3 opponents, you'll end up with 3 tokens. But if you swing all those creatures at one person, you just end up with a big token, and that's if they hit through. But we have a lot of trample, so it's really nice in this deck. Nylea's Forerunner, 5-drop, 5/3 trample. Other creatures you control have trample. Casual Tyrant of the Cliffs, 5-drop, 5/4. Whenever a creature an opponent controls attacks, if you're the defending player, put a 3/3 red ogre creature token on the battlefield unless that creature's controller pays 3. So that's a really nice effect. Then we have Grothama All-Devouring. This is probably the stupidest creature in here, but I love it. And it is going to commander its own deck here in a minute. I just have to fix it. Once I get done with Mayael and I'm done playing Mayael, I'll probably build Grothama and Chroma. But so Grothama is a 5-drop legendary worm, 10/8. Other creatures you control have whenever this creature attacks, you may have it fight. Or oh no, I read that wrong. It says other creatures have. So this is everybody's creatures have. Whenever this creature attacks, you may have it fight Grothama All-Devouring. When it leaves the battlefield, each player draws cards equal to the amount of damage dealt to Grothama this turn by sources they controlled. So the best thing that we can do with this card is when they swing in, activate Mayael and hope that we get Spearbreaker Behemoth or Soul of New Phyrexia, and then activate one of those abilities to give it indestructible if they're having it fight it. So that's an option, and it probably won't work, but it's a fun one that we can do. And also, it's just a 5-drop 10/8, so if we can give it trample, is stupid. So that's why I love that guy. Then we have Cavalier of Thorns, 5-drop 5/6 Elemental Knight. Reach. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 5 cards of your library, put a land card from among them onto the battlefield, the rest into your graveyard. Whenever it dies, you may exile it. If you do, put another target card from a graveyard on the top of your library. And then we can use Mayael to play it if it ends up being a creature. Spellbreaker Behemoth, a 4-drop 5/5. It can't be countered. Creatures supposed to control with power 5 or greater can't be countered, which we probably won't be casting that many of them, but they will end up in our hand quite often. Then our last one is Shifting Ceratops, a 4-drop 5/4, can't be countered, protection from blue, pay a green, and it gains your choice of reach, trample, or haste until the end of the turn. So that is the 52 creatures I picked out that could go into the deck. Let me know what you guys think. I didn't come up with this idea on my own. I watched a Commander Quarters video, and that's where I got this idea from. I thought that it was a wonderful idea and a great way to improve the fun for everybody at the table, so I wanted to go ahead and do it. And that's also why I picked up Grothama, because it's a really fun commander too. Not just for you, but for everybody. But Grothama wants a bunch of the cards that are in here. It wants Soul of New Phyrexia, it wants Vigor, Spellbreaker Behemoth, Polyraptor, Mossbridge Troll. It wants a bunch of them to go in that deck at least. But let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like if you liked it. Let me know why you didn't like it, if you ended up not liking it. And I'll see y'all next time.